Hi, I'm JC. Since the pandemic, I've been working from home, so I've had to juggle both my personal and my work GitHub accounts locally on the same computer. And until now, I couldn't find a way to properly do it, and all the guides I saw online didn't help at all. So I had to use the command line for my work GitHub, and I had to use the GitHub for desktop for my personal repos. I finally, just this weekend, decided to try to change all that because I just want to use the command line that's in Visual Studio Code for all the repos. And I finally figured it out, and I want to show you guys how to do that. If you're on Windows 10, you're going to need to set up the OpenSSH server that comes with Windows 10. It's not on by default. So you'll want to go to Services, and you're going to want to go down all the way to OpenSSH. And it'll be disabled by default. So you'll want to go to Properties. You'll want to set it to automatic and then apply, and then you'll want to start it. And then once it's running, then you can go to the next step. Next, we'll create the SSH key by going into the console and doing SSH-keygen-t. We're going to use the RSA algorithm, and we're going to give it the flag of 4096 bits. Okay. And then we're going to do -c, and we're going to give it the username of our GitHub account. So GitHub user, and you're going to do enter. I would suggest doing the personal account as the default ID underscore RSA, but you can set this to anything. So let's say we wanted to put it underneath C users, JC-SSH, and we wanted to call it personal key. Then you're going to hit enter. Then you're going to give it a passphrase. You're going to need this when you add the public key into GitHub. And now your key is generated. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing now, but we're going to add the GitHub work user, whatever your username for work is. Okay. And you're going to hit enter. And same thing here. We're going to give it a location that we want, and it has to be a different file name than your personal one. So we're going to do C users c.ssh/work key. Now I already have one called work key, so I'm going to call it GitHub work key. All right, there you go. Now what you can do here is head on over to that folder, and we're going to open it up just so you can see what it looks like. This is what it looks like. There's going to be 2 private keys, and there's going to be 2 public keys. There's going to also be a known host file that you don't need to worry about. Next, we're going to want to create this config file. It's not there by default using Windows PowerShell if you've been using the PowerShell. It might create it if you've used a different way of doing the SSH keys. So you're going to want to right click new file, and you're just going to remove everything and just call it config. And now you're going to want to open this file in a text editor. You'll want to add this blurb per key that you have. So in this case, I have 2 keys, a personal and a work one. So I'm going to give it a host name. So I called mine pers and work. And the host name that we're going to is github.com. So this will be standard if you're using GitHub. And then the user git, because everything that you do goes through the username git through github.com. Then we're going to give it an identity file. Okay. So this is the file that we created, the private key file that we created. This is what we're going to reference. One for personal, one for work. So in your case, it was personal key, and then it was work key or ID. It doesn't matter. And then this is identities only. Yes, if you don't do this, it's always going to default to IDRSA even when you're trying to do the work key. So we have to put this flag in. So once you have the 2 things done, you can save the file and close it. Next, you're going to want to go into github.com. And you're going to go in the menu here, and you're going to go settings. In here, you're going to want to go to SSH and GPG keys on the left-hand side. And you're going to want to create a new SSH key. Now, head on over to your terminal. Make sure you're in your SSH folder. You're going to want to do a cat of that specific public key of that account. So you were in your personal account. You're going to go here to SSH keys. You're going to come here. You're going to do cat of the personal key that you created, hub, and you're going to copy all of this and you're going to put it right here in the key. Okay. Make sure that there's no extra carriage return here, that it ends right after the last character. Okay. And you give it a name, give it whatever you want. You add the SSH key, and here you go. Now you're going to do the same process in your work account. So here we're going to add the 2 keys to a local SSH cache so that you don't have to log in every time you interact with github.com. So every time you do a pull, a push, and other things like that, it's going to want to ask you to log in every single time. So by doing this, it's going to ignore that. You're going to have to do it the first time, and then it's going to add it to the cache, and then you're going to be fine. So let's do an SSH add, and we're going to point it to the local user keys that we've done. In our case, we did a personal key. Okay. And this is the private key you want to put in. And then you're going to do enter. And you're going to do the same thing for the work key. Now you can test these by doing SSH-TV. And then in my case, you'll use the host name. So remember in that file, remember that in this config file here, the host name, that's what you're going to want to do. So here I'm going to do that. And here you go. Successfully authenticated. And you want to do that for the work one too, just to make sure it works. Next, the way that I found this to work the best is you're going to want to create 2 folders somewhere that you can put all your repos inside. So all your personal repos will go in a personal folder and all your work ones will go in a work folder. So you need to determine where you want that to be. And then once you do have that, there's 3 files we have to create. If you head on over to your user folder, you might already find a .git config. I can't remember if it was created already or not, but if it isn't, you can just create it at .git config. And you're going to want to open that up. What we're going to want to do is you're going to want to do first is you'll want to set up this user. You'll give your personal user here. It doesn't really matter. It just needs 1 in the config file for it to work, because if there isn't anything here, it's not going to work. You'll want to put in your personal one here, and that'll be fine. I put in the name, my personal name, and the email address to my GitHub account. Then you're going to want to do a core, and you're going to give it the SSH command, and this command location right here. Then here's where the magic happens. We're going to do an include if, and we're going to pass it a git dir, and we're going to pass the folder that holds all of your work repositories. And you're going to make sure that it ends with a trailing slash, or else it's not going to work. And then you're going to give it a path to a different config file that's going to be found right next to this one. So the git config -work. And you're going to do the same thing for the personal. So you're going to give it a personal folder where all your personal repos are going to be located in. Now, before you did this, if you already had repos scattered everywhere, this would be the time to create the folder and move them all into there. Just cut, paste directly in the subfolder. There's going to be a command we're going to run later for each one of those repos to fix the connection. Okay, so don't worry about it. So now if we open up each one of those 2 files, this is where you're going to give the specific name and email for that account. And you're going to do the SSH command pointing to the specific private key that we've set up earlier. Okay, and the same thing is going to be done for the work one. So it's going to be your name and different email for the work email. And then you're pointing to the work key in this case. Now, once you have all those things done, it's just a matter of setting up each individual repos to work for that key. Now, there is a command you'll most likely have to run in each one of the repos that you have, but honestly, it'll fix all the problems that you have, and it's totally worth it. So you'll want to go into the terminal in a repo that you have. So you're going to go to GitHub, you're going to go to your Git, and to find the SSH connection string here. You'll see that there's a user and host here and colon and then the repo. So we've already set this up, the first part in the config file in the .ssh folder. You're going to replace this part here with that alias name. It's like host and then pers or hosts work. That's what I've set it as. And you'll still keep the rest the same. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here. We're going to go into our folder that we want. Then this is a repo. We'll want to do a git remote set URL URL origin, and this is the alias. You'll put it here, and then the other part of that, which is the repo. And then you're going to hit enter. And there you go, done. And the way that we can test this is now we can come here, we can do a git pull. It's already up to date, but it didn't ask me to log in. It might ask you once actually to enter your passphrase. So you put the same passphrase that you put in to create those keys. And once you're done it once, it's going to cache it and you're not going to have to do it again. And you're going to go do this for every repo in both your personal and work. Once it's done setting up, it's done. So now, because we set it the way we set it, it knows that if any repo that's under my personal folder, I'm going to use your personal account, and any repos inside the work folder, I'm going to use your work account. Now, if you don't have a repo installed already, or you want to get a new repo, it's the same thing. You'll just do a git clone personal, and you're going to add this. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, please consider subscribing and give me a like. And until next time, take care.